As a recovering optimist, with blurred and obscured optics, I often gloss over the bad for the good. But when taking on the topic of the gospel, that's impossible. There's honestly no way that I could. I've got to flip-flop and reverse this. Retrofit and first spit some verses explaining the source of the curse, which caused death to spread across God's good earth and would have dispersed throughout the whole universe, putting creation in a casket to be hauled off in hell's hearse, if God the Word hadn't emerged and conferred the gifts of resurrection and rebirth. But first things first, before we proceed, we need to agree that there really is a disease that lives in you and me. It's hard to concede, but it's easy to see that we are indeed the deceived seed of Adam and Eve. You see, the apple of their greed hasn't fallen far from our family tree. And our world may not believe, but I hope you're not a cynic just because this illness won't ever be diagnosed inside a clinic. It's a plague that's more deadly and far more systemic than anything we've seen in a worldwide pandemic. This satanic sickness is global. It's spread death to all men. Let me spell it out in the dirtiest three-letter word. It's spelled S-I-N. S is for the self, which sin always puts first. Self-absorption, self-enthronement, and a self-seeking thirst. Self-indulgent self-love with self-centered self-worth sources all of the sorrow in our suffering earth. Society is sin-sick with its own self-obsession. Still, the greatest weapon of sin is its power of self-deception. Sneaky like the serpent, sowing seeds of deceit till our self-chosen slavery to sin is complete. I is the inability of man to break free, imprisoned in independence because it's all about me. Individualized iniquity, intoxicating humanity. Isolated in ingratitude, sin is a kind of insanity. Irrepressible impulses, impossible to ignore, with insatiable enticements which implore us for more. Adding insult to injury, the idolatry within implants the capital I in the center of sin. Because there's no one righteous. No, not even one. Not yourself, not your neighbor, not your newborn daughter or son. And there's nothing we could do about it. No way we could change. No quick fix could untwist or unmix this sick nightmare our sin has made. Inside, a narcissistic heart beats like a drum. Indwelling sin like a narcotic makes our hostile hearts grow numb. Non-compliant to God by nature, non-compliant to the gospel, in need of a new birth and a new heart because ours are as hardened and dead as a fossil. I could summarize my life outside of Christ in two words: total depravity. Like a nice looking tooth, which in truth has rotten roots in the putrid decay of a cavity. Like that tooth, my heart was hollow and dark, devilish desires all the way through it. In need of the cross because breath mints and floss and Crest white strips just wouldn't do it. I believed I was Roman numeral number 1. I was my own self-appointed hero. Till my maker and creator showed me without the savior, I'm a faker and beggar who's as empty as a zero. But to accept that fact that I'm not number 1, and to give up all trust in the trophies I'd won, and to reckon all that I'd ever done dung was the place where I found grace that embraced me as a son. So excuse me while I use this new acronym to explain the truth of how I was born again when the Spirit moved in and transformed me within to set the chief of sinners free from my identity in sin. S is for the sovereign, saving plan of God the Father, who saw sinners in the sewage of sin and chose from them sons and daughters, who so loved that he sent his sacred Son, who descended in blood and water to sacrifice his sinless life like a lamb led to the slaughter, whose substitution was God's solution to bring absolution for my sin's pollution. Despised and rejected, unexpectedly resurrected, I'd call that a Jesus revolution. O is for the operation of the omnipotent Spirit, who opens hearts and opens minds to the gospel when we hear it. who makes alive, who opens eyes, who like the wind is free to blow. You hear the sound, though you don't know where it comes from or where the wind might go. O is for the orphaned outcast that I myself used to be. O is for the open arms and open heart of the Trinity. Oh, the deep, deep love of Jesus, vast, unmeasured, boundless, free, rolling as a mighty ocean in its fullness over me. Oh, the balance of my sin's debt, which only God could forgive. And oh, because I owe him all and only long for him to live. Like Nebuchadnezzar, I used to crawl away from God with a nasty heart like Saul. Like Nehemiah, I had built high walls, strong as Jericho's, but Yeshua's call made them fall. Now you can call me Nicodemus, because the thing is I came to Christ by night, and despite my fright, he shined his bright light inside and gave me his resurrection life. Into his death, I died with him. In baptism, I was brought near and reborn. Nothing separates me from God now that the temple curtain is torn. There's no way, no how. There's nothing now in all the realm of creation that can negate or separate me from God's love in Jesus, who is my salvation. N is for the Nazarene, who washed me clean and calls me friend, who died for sins and rose again, enthroned when he ascended that he might send his Spirit, who now has grafted me in, so that he is in me and I in him, to the never-ending end. The end.